Part 6, the hardest game in the universe. I don't have to tell you just how high stakes our choices are down here. That's why so many near death experiences, as well as information from many of my mentors, they come back and say, this is the hardest place to incarnate in the entire LCS. There is so much hitting us all the time to get us to choose fear. Only a God realized being, a master, would choose love no matter what down here. That's why they're called masters. They've mastered the love fear duality and chosen love wisely and consistently, even among the harshest of scenarios. They genuinely, at the being level, not the level of the intellect, but genuinely abide in love all of the time. Understanding this choice making process requires us to consider the underlying structure of reality. As a vast evolving information system, the LCS, as Campbell puts it, is governed by a fundamental rule set, a set of underlying principles or laws that define what is possible within this reality. This rule set establishes the boundaries, interactions, and behaviors of everything within the system. At its core, the rule set ensures consistency and coherence in the universe, much like the laws of physics do in our physical world. The rule set defines how souls, through human incarnations, can make choices, how cause and effect operate, and how information flows and changes within the system. It's neither arbitrary nor random. Rather, it is designed by the LCS to create a stable environment where meaningful experiences and growth can occur. One key aspect of the rule set is that it enables free will and independent choice, which is why Campbell and many of my mentors oppose the concept of determinism. Each human has autonomy within the constraints of the system's rules, allowing for genuine learning and evolution. The LCS does not force outcomes, but provides a framework where consciousness can experiment, make mistakes, and learn from consequences. This freedom is essential for the evolution of consciousness, as growth depends on making choices that lower entropy and disorder and increase order and love. This principle that everything must actively resist entropy to endure is written into all levels of reality. A human body survives only because the heart keeps pumping and the lungs keep breathing. Without this steady energy input, it collapses within minutes. A house, if left unattended, inevitably decays. Paint peels, wood rots, and structure crumbles unless energy is applied to maintain it. Even our technology follows this law. A phone or computer quickly becomes useless without recharging, updates, and protection against breakdown. In the same way, the LCS must actively cultivate order and love to evolve. Otherwise, it defaults towards chaos, fear, and disintegration. This explanation reframes life on Earth as a sacred experiment in self-awareness and free will. God did not create a fixed destiny or a world of punishment and reward, but a playground where souls can explore, create, and evolve through decisions. The earth is thus a place for the soul to experience separation and then one day remember its unity with God, the ultimate goal. The challenges and hardships of life are not punishments, but next level opportunities for growth, learning, and awakening. And when Campbell calls this a virtual reality, he doesn't mean it's unreal or imaginary. He means it's an environment generated by the LCS where everything we see is rendered information only seen when observed. A useful analogy is a video game. When your character walks into a new room, the game engine doesn't render every detail until you actually enter it. In the same way, the LCS quote unquote renders reality only when consciousness interacts with it. This perspective aligns with the famous double-slit experiment in quantum physics. First demonstrated by Thomas Young in 1801 with light, and later repeated with electrons by physicists such as Richard Feynman, the double-slit experiment revealed that when electrons or photons pass through two slits unobserved, they create an interference pattern, behaving like waves that go through both slits simultaneously. But once scientists measured which slit a particle passes through, it acts like a single particle instead of a wave. The experiment suggests that observation itself plays a role in shaping reality, as particles change their behavior depending on whether they are being watched. What they proved is that reality only exists when there's an observer present, as particles behave differently depending on whether they are being observed. That's because reality unfolds as a participatory process between consciousness and a system's rule set. Science was only explaining what mystics have known forever. Campbell came along and merged the two in a way never done before in history. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but it's sort of the reason why I came here, Campbell told Joe Rogan on his world famous podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. And Earth is just one of countless virtual realities. Campbell, in his My Big Toe book trilogy, describes thousands of such realities he explored through decades of out of body research as an active and prolific consciousness explorer. Each operates by its own rule set, with its own challenges and opportunities for evolution. He calls Earth a physical matter reality, a PMR. Many of the masters I've studied with confirm the same. Consciousness evolves not in a single world, but across an immense network of realities, each offering different decision spaces where beings can learn, grow, and move closer to love. All had the common thread that love was the answer to everything. This one, however, just so happens to be the hardest of them all. A dense, high stakes reality reserved only for the most elite souls who arrive here after many, many incarnations in quote unquote easier systems or planets. We needed to get spiritually jacked before we were even considered to be allowed to enter this crazy gym. Additionally, social systems are necessary because they create the essential context for moral choices, empathy, and the development of love and compassion. As this virtual reality evolved out of the chat room, it became clear that social systems were essential for true growth. Campbell emphasizes that only through relationships, cooperation, and social interaction can consciousness actually evolve at the greatest level. They are the laboratories where consciousness learns to lower its entropy. That is, to become more ordered, caring, loving, and unified. Without others to interact with, consciousness would have no opportunity to practice selflessness, forgiveness, or unconditional love. The challenges of navigating relationships, dealing with societal conflict, and choosing cooperation over competition provide the friction necessary for growth. Campbell explains that these social dynamics create decision spaces where individuals must choose between fear-based responses, which increases entropy through separation and conflict, and love-based responses, which decrease entropy through connection and understanding. This is why isolation stunts growth while meaningful relationships accelerate it. They provide the mirror through which consciousness can see itself and the practice ground for evolving beyond ego-driven patterns toward genuine care for others. That's also why we feel good when we help others and don't when we think only of ourselves. It's direct, unfiltered feedback from the LCS to its veiled participants. Now, imagine if there were no social systems at all, no families, communities, or even simple friendships. You'd essentially have billions of isolated individuals wandering around with no context for developing empathy, kindness, or love. Without others to interact with, consciousness would be like a musician trying to learn harmony while sitting alone in a soundproof room. There'd be no opportunity to practice selflessness, no chance to learn forgiveness, and no way to discover what unconditional love actually feels like. You can't develop these qualities in a vacuum because they literally require other people to exist. In Campbell's model, probability distributions represent the range of possible outcomes for any given situation within the LCS, with intent being one of the biggest variables in the system that shapes the likelihood of these outcomes and directly influences the growth or decay of the LCS. This is what is meant by our thoughts shape our reality. Think of it like a menu of options, each with a different likelihood of being selected by the system. Our intentions act as a weighting factor, influencing which of these potential realities becomes actualized. For instance, positive intent can lead to significant outcomes, such as 1, group prayer. Group prayer is when large groups come together to pray for peace or healing during times of war. The collective focus of their intent can increase the probability of survival and well-being for those affected. This shared energy can create a supportive environment that fosters resilience. 2, healing practices. Healers who possess high intent potency can facilitate remarkable recoveries, often seen as miraculous. Their focused intent can influence the probability of healing, sometimes defying conventional medical science and leading to outcomes that seem impossible. 3, acts of kindness. Simple acts of kindness, such as volunteering or offering emotional support, can ripple through communities, enhancing the overall well-being of individuals and fostering a culture of compassion. Conversely, negative intent could manifest as 1, manipulation, taking advantage of someone's vulnerabilities for personal gain, which can harm relationships and erode trust. 2, greed, prioritizing profit over ethical considerations, potentially leading to exploitation of others or the environment. 3, hatred, engaging in actions driven by anger or prejudice, which can perpetuate conflict and suffering. In this dense, fear-laden virtual reality, we are often faced with challenging decisions that test our resolve. These opportunities for choice not only help us refine our intentions, but also contribute to the overall evolution of the system, making our experiences here vital for both personal and collective growth. Campbell explains this through what he calls decision space, the range of choices available to any consciousness at any moment. As we evolve and lower our internal entropy, fears, limitations, ego-driven patterns, our decision space expands, allowing for more loving and creative choices. Think about all the different races, ethnicities, and challenges that each person has faced over the course of history. From a Roman emperor in the year 200 to a homeless person in the streets of Skid Row in the mid-1980s, to a slave building the Egyptian pyramids, to a Japanese stay-at-home mom in 2025. Spread that over a distribution of roughly 100 billion people who've ever lived, and God has experienced pretty much every possible scenario of love over fear decision spaces on the distribution curve. For God to learn about itself through us, we must live in a reality where our choices carry great weight. As we confront extreme evils like murder and genocide, alongside everyday negativity such as anger and greed, we are challenged to embody love and consistently choose love-based actions. Is any of this starting to click for you now? Is this insane, normalized, yet we all know it's messed up existence starting to make a little more sense now? Again, this is why Earth is considered by many of my mentors and near-death experiencers as either the best or one of the best places to incarnate for soul growth. David Suich, our NDE researcher from earlier, explains that only 1 in 100 qualified souls gets to incarnate here, making humans the 1% of the best of the best. The Navy SEALs among Navy SEALs. Souls, he said, eagerly volunteer and wait in line to come here because the growth potential is so accelerated, explaining exactly what I saw on my psychedelic trip. And of all the virtual realities, Earth, as NDEs, Campbell, countless mystics, and my mentors all agree on, our 3D reality is the densest. According to the law of one and many other traditions and teachings, it combines the first and second dimensions into one, compacted reality. No other dimension does that. It's really, 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 really incredibly dense down here compared to not just non-physical realities, but our compacted bodies are also unfathomably distant from the infinite, boundless beings we truly are. We're just so used to it. We don't know anything else. We say, that's just life. When those beyond the veil are looking down at us like, Jesus Christ, those warriors are doing the spiritual equivalent of Green Beret training, blindfolded, and thinking it's just a casual jog. We are badasses. And what makes this spiritual boot camp even more challenging is that we're not starting fresh each time. It can be a difficult ride carrying past life karma and samskaras from one lifetime to the next. For example, Suich said, souls will obviously do many clusters of both male and female lifetimes. When switching from one sex to the next, he said the next life can come with confusing and inexplicable inner feelings and tendencies carried over from the previous life. This explains some transgender experiences, like switching from driving SUVs to a sports car, Suich said. The loving response is to call people by their preferred names. You really don't know what carryover they had from life switching. Another of a long list of reasons we should never judge others. Your soul's been around the block more times than a pizza delivery driver. So cut everyone some slack, will you?